So, good afternoon, everyone, and a very, very happy Makar Sankranti, Pongal, Baisakhi, whatever, in whichever part you are celebrating. A happy festive from all the people and Team Bloom to everyone. I'm sure that you would be watching this recording sometimes later also. So, good evening and good night to all the people, but I'm sure that you all are present here and 178th episode of Bloom Non-Stop. So I'm sure that 178th Bloom Non-Stop has just not happened within a day. It was that small efforts which made us being so consistent, being talking about 178. So people generally talk, how do you achieve success? So my dear friends, success is not achieved in and one night or overnight. You just cannot expect a miracle to happen. Certainly, it requires persistency, it requires consistency, it requires a lot of efforts which the entire Bloom team takes to curate the speakers to bring people of professional intelligence and sharing their all the best whatever they have to bring in into the benefit of the audience, information, knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And when they are coming and giving us selflessly, we as audience should never leave this opportunity, grab the opportunity. And as we grab the opportunity today on our 178th episode, we have a beautiful and amazing, intelligent, and much more talented CA, Miss Jinal Maroo. So, of course, I have read about her credentials, but I would just tell her credentials maybe in one line that a 14 years of corporate experience and being a CA, certified information success auditor, I would request Ms. Geenal to unmute herself and talk about her journey from CA, from corporate, and coming to this space today. It's been a bigger and a longer journey, and the journey of experience, a journey of understanding, a journey of sharing, a journey of lot of unlearning, because sometimes we learn and we also have to unlearn. So without taking much more time, I hand it over to Geenal. Geenal, we would love to listen to you, and we would love that if you could tell and introduce about yourself and your journey.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neeta, and thank you for this platform. Bloom as a platform is the amazing work you all are doing, the kind of speakers you all have been inviting. And thank you to Abhijit sir, to Payal, and to you, Dr. Neeta. Thank you, Premraj, for this opportunity. And if I were to talk about my journey, I think becoming a chartered accountant and the kind of work we did in audit, the first thing that we start doing is we start being skeptical and we question everything. And as part of our audit work, we ended up checking the controls in our client's organization to see how is it that they are safeguarding their information, their assets. And information technology is a huge enabler for business and now also for life. It always was, but we are now trying to now able to realize after the pandemic what is the potential of information technology to improve our lives. The thing is that while it's also an enabler, it also can be misused by miscreants, just like anything can be misused. And that's why if we want to get the best out of information technology, it's important to be aware of what we can do to stay safe so that we get the benefit in a safe manner. And that was really the thought process as I did my work. And I like to learn, read. And the best part or the best way to reinforce learning is when you talk about it and you share it. That's really how I'm here.
So I think the best part which you said is, learn and share. So while learning and sharing, what made you also think about this safety? Because the safety is a very important thing. And as you also mentioned, the pros and cons. And sometimes we just get into that space without even understanding what are the pros and cons. So, how do we be cyber safe?
So if I were to talk about my own experience, I think the very first time I got a laptop, or we started off with a desktop. So when I first got a desktop in those early days, all we had was a mailbox, and getting an email was itself an event to be celebrated. And in those early days, we had Orkut. That was much before Facebook. So the youngsters today must never have even heard of Orkut. But those are the days. And we all got on to Orkut because the whole idea of chatting with strangers in those, in our younger years, the idea was very novel. And obviously, we all wanted the experience. So I can tell you that when I used to chat with people online, it had happened to me that I started chatting with someone. I think I chatted with him for almost 2 months. And then I realized one day, I don't remember how the conversation went, but I got to know that he was chatting with me using a pseudonym, which is to say it was not his real name. And that got me thinking that this person hasn't told me his real name. And now I don't know if anything he's told me about him is real. And all along, I had been telling him my real name. I had been telling him all the facts of my life, the way you would have a conversation with a person in the real world. And that really was my very first learning of being online. That appearances are deceptive and people are not what they seem. So it's extremely important that Dr. Neeta, what you mentioned is exactly what it is. We start using the technology without knowing how to use it safely, how to get the best out of it in a safe manner. And that was my early learning. Of course, it's only when I started doing my work professionally that I realized how to be safe. Because initially it was more of hit and miss. But at that point, it was a very small part of our lives. You could choose to be online or not. Your life, the rest of your life was not affected. If you didn't have a mailbox, it's okay. If you weren't on Orkut, it's okay. But today we do almost everything online. We shop online, we chat online, we learn online, we invest online, we bank online. And it makes life easy because you save time and then you have time to spend with your family. So the world in the last 20 years, if I may say, has transformed to such an extent that I would say we are almost at now a 50-50 divide. It's like 50% of your life is online and 50% is offline. So if at this point in time, if we were to adopt a hit and miss approach, it's not going to work. We're taking a huge risk. And that's why it's extremely important that we know how do we conduct ourselves online. And it's really important to share this information. It's like the more you know and the more you share, you're just helping to build a safer world for yourself as well and protecting your dear ones. So that I think what you mentioned, you just hit the nail on the head. You really need to know how to use the technology before you start using.
Very true, very true. And sometimes we also do what, we as humans, we are very much prone to copy and paste.
Very true.
So when we copy and paste, sometimes we are not even aware of the repercussions. Ki what is it going to happen later? So
True.
do you also feel that this concern of cyber safety is only for the rich and famous, or is it for everyone of us?
So the rich and famous are the ones who are targeted more because they are in the limelight. Everybody, the minute you open a newspaper, you read about them. And there's a lot more information about them that is available. People know their dates of birth because there are fans who are following them. So people know their date of birth. There are people who get access to their PAN numbers, Aadhaar numbers. So there's information about them which is more easily accessible. There are a lot more people who are interested in them. So obviously, they are the ones who are going to be subjected to these crimes more. There are so many instances of celebrities whose bank accounts have been hacked, whose identity information has been misused to get a loan issued in their name, to get a debit card issued in their name. So of course, financial crimes happen to them. Even emotional crimes where they've been trolled. Look at Batha Dutt. She's a journalist, but she's the most trolled woman in India. Or even if you look at deep fakes, Rashmika Mandana's case, hers is the most recent, but there are so many female celebrities whose deep fake videos are floating out there. But the challenge today is that it's so easy now the lure of easy money is so big that almost a lot more people are trying it today, and they're trying it on everybody, not just celebrities. Even regular people like us are being targeted. And it's easy to do it. Like you look at the technology that's required to make a deep fake. You have that software available even for free. And trolling or hate speech, it's easy to make a fake account on any of the social media platforms and just, start venting at whoever it is that you decide to target. And that's why today regular people like us are also being affected. So it's a concern for the rich and famous, definitely. But even people like us need to conduct ourselves safely because we are online.
So when you talk about some safety measures, that we also have to be following some safety measures, and you have consistently been online, at times not knowing but still enjoying the fun of being online, and at times understanding ki, yes, though I was enjoying, but again with that enjoyment there was something which was even coming as red flag. So how have been your experience for online safety, as well as even taking care that who is the person at the other end? So, what has been your overall experience?
So I mentioned, like, in the initial days when we first got online, I mentioned about my Orkut experience. But as the years went by, as I started working and as I started reading more, because a part of my work involved being informed about what is it, how are the financial crimes being committed. And so in the process, I kept reading and a little bit of skepticism developed. Like I said, of course, because of my profession. But as you start working in the real world, you start getting to know that truly what they say, that there is nothing like a free lunch. So if somebody is giving you something for free, you really have to think why. So every time somebody gets an email saying, it's you won a lottery and you're going to get 1 crore rupees if you give us your bank details and things like that. We've all heard about these and we know that nobody ever actually gets 1 crore. But this is now something that we need to develop as a thought process, that nobody ever gives anyone anything for free. And if it sounds too good to be true, you really need to think about it. I've had these cases where I've got these emails. There was one case where I had this SMS that I got saying you're getting free boat air dopes. And I'm thinking, why somebody saying free boat air dopes? If I was a person who did technology reviews and posted the reviews on LinkedIn or YouTube, then I can understand that some company sends them to me and saying review our product and post a review. I don't do that. So why would somebody send that to me? And then I started thinking, and I remember reading somewhere that wearable devices can be used to eavesdrop on people's conversations. And that set me thinking that maybe this is something like that. And I didn't accept it. But what I'm trying to say, or for that matter, an SMS saying your electricity bill is unpaid. So we're going to sever your connection unless you click on this link and pay your bill. Now, again, because I have reminders for my bills, I was pretty sure that I have not missed a payment. But I still went to the electricity department office just to find out why has this SMS come to me. And they said, ma'am, the BEST does not send SMSs with where a cell number is visible. What you will see is something like an SMBEST. And he's right, because companies send bulk messages. They're not sent from a number to which you can reply. So that was the first red flag, so to speak, like you mentioned. Because ordinarily, when you get a message, that's how it is. So this was an aberration. This was an exception. And another thing he told me is, ma'am, if you haven't paid one bill, that doesn't mean we will disconnect your meter. We will give you at least 3 opportunities. That was the other thing. I said, he's right. They will not at the first instant disconnect the meter connection. So the bottom line is that we need to calm down. But that's something when we are in that state of panic, we click on that link. It takes us to a website which the miscreant can track, and we just put in our bank details. Of course, the next step is that nothing gets paid and we forget about it. But what happens in the background is that they get our credentials. So these are the kind of things that happen. And that's really what we need to be aware of so that we don't end up falling prey to such instances where people are trying different things. But awareness, I think that's really the key.
I think that is what, though we being educated, though we being also aware at times, but the moment this pops up in our mailbox, or the moment this pops up even as an SMS on our cell phones, we are pretty scared. We are scared of our reputation. Oh, what will happen? What would people think that you really dress up so well? You go into very exclusive cars and still you're not doing your bill payments, right?
True,
So I
true.
think that panic button in us is so much ingrained that we
Mhm.
forget to be calm and we get panic. And in
Absolutely.
panic, we start sending the OTPs to the people. And in that panic button, we start taking help who are not even aware of what it is.
True,
Right?
very
And
true.
sometimes they just take undue advantages. And while talking about this undue advantages, as you also mentioned, finance, at least I can tell about this very clearly. And in this open forum, my daughter herself, she has been in this whole drama of cyber security and things like that. And she didn't knew whom she was paying. Up till then, she realized that she has already paid 1 lakh rupees.
Oh my God.
Until date we are chasing it out, but we aren't not able to even understand ki that
Mhm.
person was trying to be friend and trying to help somebody else, but
Hmm.
only for the known sources. I think the known sources are the most scariest sources, because we tend to share a lot of information,
Yeah,
right?
very
So
true.
when talking about, when we share these informations and when we share this to our known people, what do you think that could be the broader kinds of cybercrime, and how can we really take care of all those things? Because my daughter was very innocently sharing it out. I know, Mama, he's my friend and he's genuinely helping her. So that her was to never seen only. Where is that her gone? She was not to be seen. Now that boy is also not to be seen, but 1 lakh just went away. So, in that broader kind of cybercrime, means what all can happen? Can you just also highlight about it?
Sure. So if you look at cyber crimes, they are very similar to the kind of crimes that would happen in the real world. So if you were to look at the spectrum of the crimes, they would range from financial crimes to emotional crimes, crimes on reputation, attacks on reputation, physical crimes. It's just that it's technology enabled. So the world of crime is the same, but it's technology enabled. So if you look at, take an example of a financial crime, in the real world also you will have people who will forge signatures. Instead of doing that in the digital world or online, what they would try to do is find out your password. They'll try to find out your pin, and there are different ways they can do it. Some of the simplest ways are where they try to they pretend as if they're trying to help you, and that happens more to senior people because they may not be very tech savvy. So they attempt to say that हाँ मैं आपकी मदद कर देता हूँ, and in the process what they actually do is they figure out your password. And that's not to say that everybody who's trying to help you has malignant intent, but the point is you need to, in these matters, seek help from people whom you trust and whom you know. It cannot be strangers, because that actually happens. When I go to the bank, I can see that somebody's a senior person is struggling to operate the ATM, and someone tries to help you. Now there are people who have good intent, but you need to be sure about how this technology works. What you mentioned at the start, if you are not aware of how the technology operates and you're going to depend on a stranger to learn the technology, then you're really taking a big risk. Learn it first with people who know you, people whom you trust, and then operate it. So that's the format of the financial crime. So they would try to in some ways figure out your password, your pin, your OTP. So it's like forging your signature. Then they can access your money, and then obviously everything unravels. If you look at crimes on reputation or emotional crimes, again very similar to the real world, but again technology, because it helps a person be anonymous. So people can make fake accounts and they can troll you, they can vent a lot of hate speech, or they actually make fake profiles for you and load all kinds of obscene content. They actually, the revenge porn is a big thing. So there are almost 5,000 revenge porn websites where people who are broken up, if the boy is and the girl are no longer together, and if he wants to seek revenge, what happens is they create a fake profile of the girl and they load her face onto morphed content, and they actually load her mobile number. So there are a lot of people out there who do this, and the women, the young girls out there are really suffering, because just because you take a decision not to continue a relationship, you shouldn't have to go through this. This used to happen in the real world as well. People would go out and malign the person concerned. Now they're just using technology to do it. But the problem with technology is because it helps people be anonymous. Like what you put online spreads really fast and it stays there. It's really hard to take it down. That's why the impact of these crimes is so, how may I say, pervasive in terms of time and in terms of reach. And if you look at the physical crimes, now even physical crimes can happen with the help of technology. Stalking, for example, if you look at things like drones, drones are being used to stalk and spy on people. There was the case of this person in Australia who used a drone to spy on his wife. Or for that matter, cars, smart devices. There was one case of a person who used the Mercedes software. The Mercedes car comes with a software called MTS. So the husband used that to spy on the wife. Or Apple AirTags. Those can be tagged to devices which, like car keys, if you tend to misplace them. But they've been misused. People, it's a small thing, almost the size of a button. You can slip it into the maybe a purse or a bag of that belongs to a person whom you want to stalk. So these are crimes in the physical crimes like stalking, which are being enabled by technology. Or the latest is the metaverse. Now, metaverse is something that we are still understanding, but there are crimes already happening in the metaverse. If you take an example of metaverse just to understand the concept, it's just think of it as fancy dress. We did that in school. Just think of it as, you've taken on a certain avatar and you're entering the metaverse. And how do you experience the metaverse? Like if you want to click on some website, what you need is a mouse pointer or a trackpad, right? That's how you access the internet. Similarly, if you want to access the metaverse, what you need is a headset. Like when you go to watch a 3D movie, you have 3D glasses. So similarly, you need a VR headset, you need haptic gloves, you get a haptic vest or even an entire bodysuit, and that's how you access the metaverse. So what happens in the metaverse is, say, when one digital avatar were to say tap on the shoulder of another digital avatar, you'll actually feel it. You'll actually feel because the touch controllers in the haptic vest will vibrate. So you'll actually feel like someone just tapped you on your shoulder. But tapping on the shoulder is one part of it. That's just to give an example. But there are a lot of crimes that are happening in the metaverse, which could happen in the real world. And there are women who are reporting such crimes. The problem with the metaverse is because this is happening in the virtual world. It's a one virtual body that's interacting with another virtual avatar. So you can't prove anything in the real world. How if somebody were to abuse another person, you can't really go to the police station and prove. So the laws are still catching up. They're still evolving. How do you establish that something happened? And did something happen in the real world? Because that's not happening. People are becoming bolder in the metaverse because they know the police can't go after them until the laws evolve, until things are established where evidence can, things can be proved. And that's why they're becoming bolder. So it's another dimension of life online, which is evolving faster than we are able to catch up. So that's really the spectrum. You can think of financial crimes, emotional crimes, physical crimes. All of that is possible online.
I think that is where the technology also talks about being really, as a boon or a bane. It's like it's very difficult to understand when and how. And as you very very well mentioned that that the senior citizens, though you need to learn from the people whom you are trustworthy, but still you need to be aware whom do you trust. So at times it is really very confusing. The people who are really good, are they really good? And that kind of creates a lot of self doubt ki okay, this is the person whom I can rely on, this is the person whom I cannot rely on. So very important is you need to be updated and upgraded even with the words and technology. I think this is very very important irrespective to any age, whether it is a child, whether it is a geriatric public, everyone has to be updated, upgraded. And I think vocabulary plays a very important role. When you are using the word metaverse, when you're using the word cyber, when you're using the word pornography, when you're using the word revengeful pornography, so there are sometimes people are not even aware of these words, these jargons. And especially I think the people who are now in their 50s and 60s, The Gen Z is able to take up these words very fast. Like today in the morning when I was talking to one of the Gen Z, and that boy tells me that, okay, no way, doctor, I am just benching. And I was like, are you really doing that? And he's saying, he's confirming with me, okay, are you even aware of benching? I said, I'm very well aware of benching because that is my domain. My domain in therapy also is about protecting somebody else's emotional status. So I'm very well aware, but are you really? So I think this awareness of words, vocabulary, and reworking with our vocabs is also very important. As I understand by the word when you were talking about metaverse, some people would have not even experienced about knowing what exactly is the metaverse world, right? We have all been seeing that avatars, and on that Facebook, when that avatar comes, we are so happy. Wow, it's me. But we do not understand ki behind that there is also someone else. You never know, right? So that's so beautifully you said. So I think we all need to stay cyber safe, and also just give out only information which is needed. Maybe just use it. It is a social site and it is just meant for that. Of course, when you are dealing with something very important, which is to be with your credibility, maybe LinkedIn and all, so you really have to be very clear with who you are, what you are, because probably some people even generate leads through LinkedIn, right? So my question goes to you is, people normally they'll change their passwords, and like me, I really kind of, I always forget, then I always have to put it, forget password. So how healthy is this to change passwords frequently, or to always continue one password, or also to share that password with the near dear ones, means in case if I have got stuck, and how it is it really okay to share those passwords? So could you highlight something on the passwords?
Sure. I think it's a very valid concern because there are so many portals that we log into, and we need to, the bottom line or the rule with passwords is that you need to make sure that they're secrets, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to protect your access to whichever, whether it.
Sorry, only one thing I would like to add here is like, means in that question only, because everybody has app now. So maybe tomorrow you might come out with some cyber safe app. So I have to download it. Again, a password, right? So maybe, if you can elaborate it to that level.
So, the one thing I'll definitely clarify is that the password has to be kept a secret, because that's the only way it's going to be able to protect access to whatever, whether it's a bank account or an email account or a Facebook account, whatever profile. So the bottom line is it has got to be kept a secret. And that applies to all forms of password, whether it's a password or a PIN or an OTP, any way which basically ensures that you're the right person to access that resource. So it has definitely got to be kept a secret. And because there are so many portals, I completely understand it's a valid concern. How do you remember so many passwords? The thing is, and yes, it needs to be changed as well. Especially with bank accounts, there is a mandate. The bank will enforce that you change your password in 90 days. So you don't have an option. They won't let you go in unless you reset your password. But with emails, with Facebook, there is no such mandate. In fact, I know one of my sister's friend. She had actually helped her friend create an account on a portal, and that person didn't change his password for 10 years. So people actually don't change their, if they don't have to, they don't change their passwords. But the fact is that changing the password is good hygiene for ourselves, because there are so many, we do read about it in the papers where some set of records was compromised, it was published on the dark net and is available for sale. So if you're not in the habit of changing your password, maybe your password has been compromised, it's available on the dark net, you can't do anything about that. But what you can do is you can change your password. That way, even if what was available on the dark net, it's no longer your password, right? So that the one thing you can do is if you change your password, then even if it was compromised, it's okay. Now that's no longer the password. So even if someone has an old password, they can't do anything with it, because now I set a new password. But how does one remember all these passwords? So there are softwares called password managers. If you it's like an antivirus software. You have a password manager, you buy it and install it on your machine. Whatever password you put in on any of the portals gets saved, and the next time you go there it will autofill it, so you don't have to remember them. Another simple solution for a password manager is you can have an Excel file and you can save your passwords. Just remember, every time you want to set a new password for a new portal, you save it in Excel, but protect that Excel file with a master password. But that is one password you'll have to remember. Because if you don't remember that password, then you don't have access to your list of passwords. So remember that password, keep that a secret, and don't use that password anywhere else. So don't recycle password. So if you have one password and you have the same password on Yahoo, same password on Facebook, same password in bank account, that's also a problem. Because if someone were to get that one password, then they can access your mail, your Facebook, and your bank. So don't have the same password across logins. But you can use this. If you want to, you can get a password manager. If you don't want to get a password manager, have an Excel file, save your password there, but protect that with a master password. Remember that, keep that a secret, and don't use that anywhere else. Because if that gets compromised, everything gets compromised. So you can operate with that option as well.
So there is a lot of word called as phishing threats, and people who do not know really about phishing threats, and they are being using anywhere and however they want to use their login, or they just sometimes they are just using somebody else's laptop. So how do they protect themselves from this phishing threats, because it's a big subject itself, but
So typically from the using another person's laptop, or for that matter, you could be operating out of a cyber cafe. That's also the same concept where you're using someone else's machine. What you need to ensure when you're using a cyber cafe or anyone else's machine is that you remember to uncheck that remember me option. So you'll have remember me at the bottom of any mail login. Even in the bank logins, you have the options of, I don't know, I think bank accounts don't allow that. But typically any other profile, whether it's Facebook or your mailboxes, Instagram, all of those, they'll have a remember me or remember this device option. So just remember to uncheck that and then proceed, because then your password doesn't get saved on that device. So that's one thing. Another thing you can do is activate two-factor authentication. Because when you use two-factor authentication, what happens is besides your password, there's an OTP that's required to get into that account. Whether again it's a bank account or your mailbox or Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. All of them now have the option of two-factor authentication. So make sure you get that enabled, because then even if someone were to get your password, they still need to get that OTP which would come on your phone. So that's the best. It's like one more, think of it as one more layer or one more lock. So you have to open two doors to be able to get into the room. So think of it that way. So have two-factor authentication enabled. And to come to the question of phishing, so typically what happens is that people get an email from senders whom they don't know, and there are links in those emails. If you open that email and click on that link, it's going to take you to a spoofed website. When I say spoofed website, what I mean is a fake website. So, for example, if you get an email from a sender, the name could be whatever, but it's not a person whom you know. If it's a person whom you know, you will know that this email is coming from, say you and I have exchanged email IDs. I will know this is an email coming from Dr. Neeta Matre. But if this is an email that's coming from just Neeta, and I'm wondering who's this because I'm not very sure, or it's a name that I haven't heard before, then I'm definitely sure this is not a person I know. So if you open emails which are from, ideally you shouldn't open emails from senders you don't know, or subject lines which are not in the context of anything you've asked for. Like for example, sometimes you get an email saying your parcel is on the way, And if you haven't ordered anything, you're not expecting anything, then that's not an email you're expecting. So don't open those emails. But if for any reason you were to accidentally also open that email, there would be links on those emails. Don't click on those. If there are attachments to those emails, don't download those attachments. Because what happens is those attachments contain malware which can be used to spy on your machine. They are able to log your keystrokes. So then they know that okay, if you visited an hdfcbank.com and after that you type these characters, this is your username, then you hit enter, these characters, this is your password. That's how key logging works. So I'm just giving you one example of what can be done with a malware, but there can be a lot of other things that can be done. So don't download attachments from emails that you are not aware of, people whom you are not aware of. And don't click on those links, because when you click on those links, what happens is that they take you to a fake website. So they might take you to a website which looks like hdfcbank.com or whatever, any bank, icicibank.com. If you look at the URL closely, you will realize it's not actually the bank's URL. There'll be something like an hdfcbanks.com or an icicisbank.com. So if you were to observe the URL carefully, you will realize that this is not the genuine URL, but we don't realize it. And the look and feel of the website is exactly like the actual website. They use the same color schemes, they'll write the bank name in the same manner. So you will think you are on the bank website. You'll click on the user ID, you type your user ID, you type your password, and you click enter. And what they do at the back end is that they're recording all of this. So what they do, they get access to is they know your ID, they know your password, and they know which bank, because you clicked on an HDFC bank lookalike website. And then they try to use this on the actual bank website, and that's how they're able to get your money. So the first thing to do is, and phishing is the first step. Like you mentioned very rightly, that's the first attack to be very, very careful of. So don't open emails from people whom you don't know. If you accidentally open the email, don't click on the links, don't download those attachments. And
I
yeah, please.
actually, I purposely use the word phishing because sometimes, as I said, that we are not even aware of the jargons.
True.
And then somebody else is asking us, Ki, did phishing happen?
Hmm.
Because why am I talking about this is about one of the case which was handled by a very good cyber security people who are also dealing with nepotism. And they came up because it was all about the safety and security, and also about the photographs of the girl. As you
Hmm.
said, please do not download that malware. And she
Hmm.
was not aware of it, and it was just coming, on her portal that there is a parcel on the way. I'm sure that you would be excited. And she was so excited. Yes, somebody is sending her something. And
Hmm.
after doing that, when she downloaded that malware, she was not even aware a lot of her pictures, obscene pictures, her pictures which were taken down during the birthday party, but it was morphed and it was all uploaded. And there was a big amount which was asked, but
Hmm.
that has not only left her with a biggest trauma, that has left her out absolutely speechless. Like it's been 3 to 4 years, but she's not been able to come out of this trauma. So we are even damaging our humans,
Very true, very
right?
true.
So this is damaging in a very, very bigger way where we are not even aware what could even lead to it. People might come and give you the money, people might come and give you, but that life which is gone, that period will not come back,
Very true,
right?
very true.
So it is so much to deal with, and sometimes we are not even aware that what are we even damaging the other person with.
True, very true.
So how do you think that the generation, of course, I understand that there is a lot of information, but I think this is too much of information overloaded, where the Gen Z has. So, how soon, as a parent, should we make our child or our family aware of all the consequences also?
So I think as a parent, that's a very valid concern, because in the pandemic, children have now started studying online as well. The way the classes are conducted, a lot of work happens online. One thing is in terms of what you can do to make sure your children are safe. One extremely important thing is, and this has nothing to do with technology, make sure that you have an open communication line with your child. Your child has to be able to trust that no matter what happens, I can go and tell mom, I can go and tell dad, and they'll sort it out. Because what happens is, the first thing is that children get scared. Like, I can tell you in my own case, when I was on Orkut and I was chatting with that person, I know in my mind that I had broken the rule. My parents had told me you're not supposed to be talking to strangers. But that's exactly what I was doing. So when I got scared that, okay, now he knows a lot about me, I got scared and I was wondering, okay, now what do I do? But my first response was, okay, I've made a mistake. But I know that when I tell mom and dad, they'll be able to sort it out. I know they will get mad that I've broken the rule that they had set for me, but they will be able to help. So I think the first thing is to make sure you have a very open communication channel. Your child needs to be able to come back and tell you whatever has happened, whatever, because we make mistakes. We are human beings. You tell a child not to do something, it's most natural for them to first try and do that. अच्छा मम्मी ने ये बोला है नहीं करना है ना, तो it's natural they will say अच्छा ऐसा क्यों बोला है, so they might want to try. So what I'm trying to say is, the first thing is, it's not related to technology. Make sure you have an open communication line. That's the first and foremost thing that has got to get established. And then the second is again what we started with. They need to know what is the technology, how it operates, and how do they stay safe. So some of the basics about operating online is that, and a lot of youngsters know that now, but just in case there are people who are still not aware of it, because what I mean is that youngsters tend to know this more than people of our age group. But a lot of them, what they do is they have two profiles. They have a private profile and they have a public profile. Now, on a private profile is where they would put their real name, their real photograph, and all their friends from that profile are real friends. When I mean real friends, they are people who are friends with in the real world, in the physical world. So it's like a person in the building, or a person whom they know from school, a person whom they know in person, physically, a person whom they know first in person, and then that person becomes a friend online. So that's the concept of the private profile. In a private profile, they only have people who they know from their real world, and there they have their real name, their real photograph, and real information, because these are people whom you know and meet every day. So you meet them in school, you meet them in the building, and this is just a way of exchanging information, quicker information sharing. But the public profile is one where you befriend strangers. Whether we like it or not, this is a concept. Earlier, we had the option of not doing it, but nowadays people tend to do a lot of it. So on the public profile, make sure you don't put your real name, don't put your real photograph, and don't put in real information about yourself that can help people connect and know exactly who you are. What I mean is, on a public profile, what you can share is just things like, I read this book, I liked it, so this is what I liked about this book, this is what I learned from this book. Or for that matter, I heard this song, I like the song, it's a nice song, this is a good artist. What I mean is, you keep conversations very generic, very superficial. It doesn't get personal. It doesn't get, how may I say, very familiar. That's the word I can use, right? So on a public, simply because on a public profile, you don't know the people at the other end. You don't know that person in the real world. You don't know if they're telling you everything about themselves, which is the experience that holds true, because a lot of people pretend to be who they're not. They lie about their names, they lie about their age, they lie about their gender, they lie about their physical location. A lot of stuff out there is not true. So if you're chatting with people whom you don't know, use a public profile. Don't give your real name. People have all kinds of screen names. Their name might be Pink Rose, or their name might be Superman, or whatever. So people use some kind of screen name. The photograph is also something like that. It will be a picture of a flower, or it will be the picture of Spider-Man. And the conversation, it's just about having a conversation. You've read a book, share about it. You like the movie, talk about it. But that's what it remains limited to. If you want to have genuine, honest conversations, do that with people whom you know from the real world. My suggestion is do that in person, because it's much better that way. It's more spontaneous. The conversation is a lot more genuine. But if you must do it online, then make sure that your private profile is for people whom you know from the real world. Public profile is for people whom you don't know from the real world. That's like the bottom line. There are a lot of other things to keep in mind, but I think this is one guiding principle.
I think when you were talking about this, this makes me even remember that there are a lot of fake profiles. People will suddenly pose like a big pilot, a big surgeon, and then it's like, I've been working here, I've been working there, and everybody gets carried over. Ki, oh my God, really, it
True.
could be the same thing. So before I hand it over to Premraj, and
Hi,
again,
Premraj.
it's 1:15. My last question to you is, first of all, I do not know how am I getting scammed. They will come up to my personal messengers and they would write something so confidential things, and I would like to trust them. So how can I provide, how can I just prevent myself getting scammed? So what could be those one or two do's and don'ts which we can follow it and which we can really do ourselves to get protected from this scam? And then of course, Premraj, you can take over from me.
So, Dr. Neeta, some things, if I give a parallel from the real world, it's like we need to know what are our assets, and we need to focus on protecting those. Because if we put our focus on how do I not get scammed, we are putting our attention on things that we don't want in our life. Because then we'll end up reading, acha, what is the latest format of scam? Aajkal kaise sab ho raha hai? So that can be one process, but I don't advocate it simply because we are putting our attention on what we don't want in our life. So my suggestion would be look at what is it that's your priority, which you need to safeguard. The first thing is your information. That's one of the biggest assets we have. And of course, that information leads to access to our money, our investments, um, to our family and friends, which are our assets. Because when we share our information, we are allowing, like you share, there are pictures of children being shared. So when you share pictures of your children, you're telling people, okay, this is my child. People end up sharing a photograph in the uniform. So the person who's a malified intent person will know, acha, this is the school to which this uniform belongs. So this is likely the locality in which the person lives. I'm just telling you how is it that we end up giving information. We may not even realize it. But you post a photograph of your child in the uniform, you've compromised your child's security by telling people, this is my child, this is what the child looks like, this is the uniform, this is the school the child goes to. So do your family a favor, don't post pictures of your children. And children are also entitled to privacy. So please don't post pictures of your children because you're creating their digital footprint, their digital life without their permission. So don't share pictures of your children. Keep your children safe. Don't share these photographs, especially don't make them public. If it's a limited profile with which you are sharing, and when I mean limited, I mean family and friends, and I mean real friends, I mean friends from the real world. If you are accepting friend requests from strangers, then they are not friends. And the minute you accept a friend request from your stranger, that stranger can see your child's photograph. It's like inviting a stranger into your house. Would we do that? We wouldn't. So don't do that online. Keep your children safe. Don't accept friend requests from strangers. And this is grown-ups. Even I have made these mistakes. So I can tell you, as grown-ups, if we don't do this, that's the first thing we can do to keep our children safe. So our assets are our information, of course, our money, our relationships, our people. And the way to protect them is to protect the information that allows access to them. So from a financial standpoint, make sure keep your OTP, password, PIN, CVV, expiry date. These are just terms that I'm throwing at you, but keep this information secure, safe, secret. Don't share this with anyone because if they know your password, if they know your PIN, then they can access your money, they can access your investments, they can access your mailbox. Mailbox is something we use more like a storage box. Because there's a 5 GB limit, we just let things sit there till the mail provider tells us, listen, you've reached your saving quota limit, start deleting, otherwise you won't get any more emails. That's when we will go and clean up the mailbox. But otherwise, just think of what's sitting in your mailbox. You'll have your bank statements, you'll have your credit card statements, you'll have your medical reports, which has your allergy information. It'll have your IT returns, it'll have photographs of your family members, it'll have your credit ratings. Just think of the information that's sitting there. So the way to operate your mailbox is if you get an email, read it. If you need to keep that attachment for later reference, download it onto your laptop, but delete the email. If you keep a clean mailbox, then even if someone hacks into your mailbox, they're going to find an empty mailbox. They're going to think, "अरे मैंने मेरा time waste कर दिया इस बंदे का mailbox hack करने में." So you're discouraging crime, and of course you're being safe. So don't use your mailbox as a storage system. And another thing to do is in terms of I mentioned about password, I mentioned about keeping a clean mailbox. Yeah, the phone is another piece of equipment that's now become like an extension of us. It's like our purse plus our ID documents plus our camera, everything's in there. So again, protect your phone with a pin or a biometric would be better now that we have that option. So protect your phone and physical custody of your phone. It's extremely important. Please make sure that you don't forget your phone lying around, because if it's just protected with a pin and you forget it somewhere, if someone has been watching over your shoulder and figured out your pin, they'll be able to access it. So be careful how you handle your phone. Invest in a phone antivirus. It's extremely important. There are very good antivirus softwares available at a very low cost. And if since that is like the one thing that has access to a lot of your information, think of protecting your phone. We have laptop antiviruses, but make sure you have a phone antivirus as well. And social media, I think the primary thing is that who is it that you're accepting as a friend? Because if you have your circle limited to the people whom you know and you trust, you are keeping your data, your children, everything safe. But if you choose to talk to strangers, then you're taking on a risk. So just be aware of it. Just be aware of what risk you are taking on before you decide to do that. So I think that's what I would say.
Thank you, Jinal. That was quite comprehensive. Just a take on what Dr. Neeta had asked. In case you get scammed, what is the way out? Suppose somebody scams me and I've lost some money. So, what is a way out, and in terms of complaining and other steps that one needs to take?
Sure. So typically, if somebody's lost money, the first step in any of these situations is to limit the damage. So if, for example, your debit card or credit card details have got compromised, the first thing you would do is block your card. If it's a bank account that you feel has been used to unauthorized debits have happened, make sure you change the password. Another thing you can do is call up the bank and get them to block the card, to even block your net banking access, because you sometimes it happens that they've even managed to change the mobile number to which the OTPs go. So even if you were to try to change your password, they will get the SMS. So in that case, what you do is you call up the bank and tell them my access has been compromised. Please block it for now, because I need to establish that the email address or the phone number has also been changed. So I'm not even able to change my password. So the first thing you want to do is you want to limit the damage. So you call up the bank, block your card, block the account access so that no further damage can happen, right? The other thing you want to do is you want to collect all the evidence. So whatever it is that you have, if it's been a phishing attempt, you may not remember exactly how this has happened. But if there is any way, if there's some SMS that has come to you which you clicked on and you feel that after that all of this happened. So if you still have that SMS, save it. Whatever evidence it is that you have, save it. And here I'm talking now in the larger context of all kinds of crimes, not just financial crimes, because sometimes it happens that people have been chatting with some people who've asked for some kind of pictures. The person concerned has shared them, and then things have unraveled. So in this context also, and this applies across the board, for any crime, whatever evidence you have, save it. Whether it is an email exchange, say for example, you got an email saying you won a lottery and you've clicked on that link. So make sure you have that email. Don't delete those emails. If you have some email exchanges with those people saying they've written to you saying share your bank details, you've sent them their bank details along with a cancelled check copy, all of that, just make sure you have that correspondence. Any SMSs you've exchanged, keep all of those. if there's any people who've connected with you through, say, maybe a Facebook or whatever, and have offered you a job, at some crazy kind of salary, work for 1 hour and you get 50,000 rupees. Keep all those exchanges, all those conversations. Any evidence that you have, save it, because all of this evidence is required for the cyber police to be able to track down that person, to be able to establish that this is exactly how the fraud or whatever the scam was played out. So save every piece of evidence, any video, any picture, anything that you have, any mails, chat messages, all of that. The other thing you need to do is keep your family informed. If your mailbox has been hacked, also you need to keep your friends and family informed. You can send people a message, tell them that listen, my account has got hacked, so please don't act on any messages that you get from this mailbox or from a particular Facebook or Insta profile, whatever the case is. Having done that, what you need to do is you need to file a complaint with cybercrime.gov.in. I'll put in the how do you
Please.
say, the link in the chat. But the website is cybercrime.gov.in. This is the Government of India Ministry of Home Affairs website. There's also a toll-free number, helpline number, sorry, not a toll-free number. It's a helpline number 1930 that you can call and report. The thing is that once you have reported to them, that needs to get converted into an FIR. So you will need to visit a cyber police station where you follow up this report with details, and then that gets converted into an FIR. So those are broadly the steps. You need to limit the damage. You need to make sure that you save all the evidence. You need to keep your family and friends informed. And of course, you need to report on the government website or the phone number so that they have at least the first report that this something like that has happened, which then you can follow up and convert to an FIR.
Thanks. That will help. You have heard the concept of something like called a dark web. Want to throw light on that, please?
So typically the dark web is, so it's a place where, how may I say, there are a lot of people who manage to compromise or get access to databases. So this whole thing about selling people's email addresses, that's something that happens even from a normal calling website. You might just give your email address if you're interested in a particular product. And then you suddenly realize that people, everybody in that space is calling you. People from unrelated spaces are also calling. That's where your email address or phone number has been sold. But what typically happens is there are people who hack websites of portals of companies where email addresses and passwords are hacked and extracted. And then they make this information available for sale on the darknet. So there are people who are interested in buying this information so that then they can attempt to log into your account, hack it, send you these kind of emails so that you then click on it, and then you they take you to a fake bank website where you type in your ID password. That's how they get your bank credentials. So what they try to do is they get basic details like a mail ID and a password, and that's how it starts, which is the whole concept of phishing. So that's where the trail starts. So the dark net is really where this information is available for sale. People who buy them, of course, are people with malified intent, but that's really the concept.
Okay, thank you. It's close to an hour now. Let me open the room for anyone who would like to ask any questions. Please raise your hand.
Premraj, I would like to just ask something. Yeah, Jinal, is there any insurance which we can do for cyber crime protecting? So a lot of like HDFC, it has some way where if your card gets stolen or something, you pay some X amount and do it.
Yes.
Or there is a cyber liability insurance. So I remember when I was in the corporate world, it was prohibitively expensive at that time. I'm talking about 7-8 years back. Is it affordable, and is there something which a lot of us as individuals can do it to protect ourselves apart from what? That's one. And the second is, does this complaints help? Do you get the money back, or once it's gone, it's gone?
So the thing is, it's a very valid question that you've asked, and yes, HDFC does offer cyber liability insurance. But the thing is, there are certain things that we need to do as well. So if we cannot establish that we have followed safe practices to operate on the internet, uh, so I have personally not taken cyber liability insurance, but there are some basic things that we need to do. And a lot of the times we don't take those steps, and then things go, they unravel.
So then in that
So
case, that will be disclaimed, right?
yeah, so which is what I'm saying, that if we have not first in the first place followed what we need to do, then there's really not much the insurance company can do. So the first thing, while taking cyber cover is an option, the first thing we need to do is we need to practice safe
See.
cyber etiquette, if I may use the word. And the other part about your question about once we lose the money, is it gone? The fact is that the conviction rates are really low, sir. It's about 1% of all cyber crimes that get reported where the person really gets justice. But that's not to say that the police is not doing their work. They have been able to prevent about 180 crores worth of fraudulent bank transactions. So it's hats off to them. They really are doing their best. But the problem is, if you think about it, it's the attack surface is so huge. There's so many of us out there with transacting online in so many ways that unless we do our share to make sure that we are safe, it's really tough for them to be able to be available everywhere and help everyone. So if we can, and as they say, prevention is the best cure. So if we can do what we can to be really safe, and if things happen, if we have the relevant evidence and we can make it available, then it's really possible for them to help us. But it comes with a lot of things that we need to have done before they can help us.
Sure. So the next question is there some basic FAQ or booklet which can be given to all? So what are the do's and don'ts, or is it something? I think if it's not there, you should write one for us or for everyone.
So the government of India has already done it. So if we go to cybercrime.gov.in, they actually have a manual which educates parents, like Neeta ma'am had asked, as a parent, what can I do to keep my child safe? So they have a manual out there for parents. They have a lot of information that we can use as citizens to be sure that we are safe online. So
But
I'd love to write that, but
Niti,
they've already done it.
I would like to interrupt here. Though the government has done their work, but for people having a layman's language, a simple language is very much important. So I think probably you can really make a try, because you have said it and made this whole topic not only very interesting but very, very much aware. I'm sure that today everybody will go back to their mails and check, do we have any reports about our health? Do we have anything to do with our bank data? Because these are some of the things which we really never think, and we think that this is important, and it just goes on till that final alarming comes ki, yes, see, your mailbox is getting full, your mailbox is getting full, and they actually provoke us to buy that, right? Sometimes it is genuine, you really have to buy it. So this is, I think it would really be a very, very good helping hand if you could just bring in few tips and tricks for all the people of your, in layman's language. Let the government do its work, and you can always contribute to it. i
Definitely, I can
I can see a
definitely
lot of
do
hands
that.
raised. Premraj, over to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And if you're writing that book, if you need any help, we are always there to help you. And you don't need our help
Definitely.
because the
Thank you
sister is
so
a very
much.
good writer. So she
So
can
so
also
there
help you,
was,
or
I think,
we are available for that.
to Premraj, when I contacted her and told her to speak on this topic, after some time she had a second doubt and she said, I'll speak on something else. But I said, this is a topic which is the need of the hour. And I feel she is in a niche topic, and I think she should dwell more on this topic. And you can have various subtopics on cyber safety for senior citizens, or cyber safety even for youngsters, because they are more tech savvy, but in fact they would tend to take things for granted, whereas seniors who don't know, they would be more cautious. And so I really don't know how it would actually work, their psych, but that's what I'm just guessing that this would be happening. So within this there would be various in-depth niche topics. I think this can just go on and on. But I think prevention is better than cure. I think you need a safety manual because all of them are on the net. I think the penetration is increasing, though we are a large population and many are still not there.
I think we have lost
And you,
him.
you could also you could also speak.
Yeah, Abhijit, I think you're having some connectivity problems. Okay, Manny.
Collecting money.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
Jinal, lovely topic that you picked up.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So many tips. My first thing that I'm going to do is go and check my emails because I got from 4,000 emails sitting on Google Mail. The reason why I said I'll also put my hand up is because I was subject to this. Okay, a couple of years ago, I think it was almost 10 years back, I was with some of my guests that had come from South Africa, and we were heading for lunch. At that time, I saw a message that came up on Google Play, okay, for a transaction of 7 rupees. Okay. And I thought maybe somebody from home is trying to do something, and I ignored it. Then it struck me that probably I don't have my Google Pay transactions. Nobody from home knows my account. So how did this happen? By the time I said, okay, let me just, be there with my guests, finish off lunch and come back. I finished off lunch. I came out and then I saw transactions of about 85,000 out,
Oh my.
swiped out from my account. I panicked because I didn't know I had home loans going. I had some other loans going through. I didn't have any funds left into my account. And these were transactions of 25, 35,000 that happened in the span of half an hour. So what I did is exactly like Jinal, what you told me. I called up the bank. They helped me a lot. I even went to the cops, and cops, as we put across, array, these guys are like mamas. They are not like mamas. Especially the people who work in the cybercrime are very sharp. They are
Absolutely.
engineers. They are software engineers. They know their stuff. The way they helped me, and Abhijit sir, to answer you, within 45 days, I got my money back. I
Wow, that's
literally went and thanked all of them across. But that moment, and I thought about it, that moment where I ignored that message of 7 rupees
Yeah.
costed me about 85,000 rupees ka
Absolutely.
loss. And
Absolutely.
and
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 45 days of
sometimes
sleepless nights.
yeah. But I followed up like hell. Huh? I literally followed up like hell with ICICI and the cyber guys, obviously, because it's your hard earned money going out and you would definitely want to get that at any cost. Why should somebody else enjoy your hard work reaps? You know,
True,
so
true.
I just wanted to share this across Gmail, and there are so many things that I learned across from a metaverse point of view, from the Mercedes Benz the software, because that is my dream car in the next 5 years. I want to pick that up, and now I need to check through the software also. But thanks so much,
Thanks, Manny. Thanks
thank
for
you.
the share. Asha, you had put up your
Thanks
hand.
for sharing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering whether the deleted stuff also can be available to those hackers.
Hello.
If we have deleted mails and stuff from our accounts, will those deleted mails be accessible to these hackers?
So as far as what I also do is, it's a good thing you mentioned it, but I also go and clean my deleted mailbox. So
Okay.
whatever you delete goes into your deleted folder, and I also
Okay.
go and clean that up.
Okay.
So technologically speaking, when you delete something, it has to get overwritten by something new. That's the concept of delete. But ideally, when you delete something in the back end, what happens is that space becomes available for new data to overwrite. And typically, a lot of us are getting a lot of mails. So my sense is that it would keep getting overwritten. So that's the concept of delete. But
Okay.
ideally, you need access to the backend also to be able to retrieve something that's deleted, which is not what a hacker would have. he will have access to your mailbox. What's visible to you is what's going to be visible to him. So if you delete it from your mailbox and also from your deleted items, he's not going to be able to see it because even you can't see it.
Okay.
Thanks. Anyone else? Dr. Alka?
So Jinal,
Hi, Alka
when
ma'am.
you look at Jinal, no, you think of her as a little baby, and I think of her as a curious child of God who is always wanting to know so many questions she has in her mind, and she's always pouring out those questions. And today, Jinal, you have shown us that you're such an expert in your field that you are. And
Thank you. Thank you
yeah,
so
you're
much.
doing such great work. Even though my camera was not on, I was on enough. I missed some part of your talk, which I will see in the recording later. I want to ask you a question that somebody who doesn't have Google Pay gets cheated of 85,000 rupees, or maybe I don't know whether he had Google Pay, but many of my friends they don't use Google Pay for paying. I find it very convenient to pay, but they don't use it. So, what is your take on that?
So, just to be sure, you're saying that if you don't have Google Pay, does that mean that you're safe and you don't get cheated? Is
Yeah,
that your question?
yeah, yeah.
So, ma'am, there are a lot of ways that people attempt to access. See, at the end of the day, all of us have a bank account which has money. Google Pay is just one way of accessing that money. You will have multiple ways. You may not have Google Pay, but you will have your net banking portal. If you have activated net banking, you will have a net banking portal. If you haven't activated net banking also, then the way for them to access your money is the old world where they have to forge your signature and use a check to get that money out of your bank.
Yeah.
But if you have activated net banking, then all they need is access to your password and also your mail or your phone to which the OTP comes. Because banks have now mandated two-factor authentication. You cannot access your bank account without two-factor authentication. So if you are on net banking, then there is possibility of losing money unless you keep your password private and make sure you don't click on phishing links and those kind of things.
Thank you for
Another
that.
thing you can do is to make sure that you always type your bank website. So if say you are on an ICICI bank account, when you want to access your bank account online, make sure you open the browser and you type your ICICI bank URL instead of clicking on a link. Because sometimes what happens is if you have malware in your laptop, they sometimes can show you a browser which the link is an autofill. So if they know you're on ICICI, they will autofill the link so that it takes you to an ICICI bank s.com, which is not the actual website. So if you are in the habit of clicking on a link, it's possible you could be directed to a wrong website. If you have malware in your laptop, if you don't have malware, then the Google browser will work normally. So the best solution is know what your bank's URL is and type it in. You type in icicibank.com, hit enter, and then the page loads. That's the very first step.
Thank you, Jinal. And also, how important it is to work incognito when you're doing all these transactions. Should we go incognito every time we go into doing the bank transaction? Is it required?
Honestly, I'm not really aware of this one, so I can't comment on this, but I will check on this and come back to you. Yeah.
If I may say something, there is a protected browser. When you have your Kaspersky and all that, when you do a financial transaction, it will give you a choice continuing on protected browser. That helps a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Asha. I think Asha has answered your question, ma'am.
What's a protected browser, Asha? I didn't understand.
If you in your laptop and all, normally you would have some security system, no, Kaspersky or something. So when you do a financial transaction, that will direct you to a protected browser. That gives you a lot of safety, but the hackers are always one step ahead of us, so we have to be alert at all times.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks, Asha. Thanks for the
Thank you.
clarification.
Thanks, Asha.
Yeah. And since there are no hands and we have already run out of time, I would like to thank Jinal for an amazing session. The wealth of information that you provided us makes us more happy as to we could be hands-on with the system, but there's a lot to work. So each individual will go back and check on some of the things that you have said so that they protect themselves. Once again, thank you for a wonderful session. We look forward to having you again on the Bloom platform in some other way also. So thank you again and God bless.
Thank you. Thank
you.
you, Premraj. Thank you, Dr. Neeta. Thank you,
Thank you so
Abhijit
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Bloom, for this great
Yes,
platform.
thank you, Bloom, for this platform.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Happy
And thanks all the
Sunday.
participants.